Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. Got a brand new video for you guys today. We're going to discuss this large 11-game slate in the association. I got a stud 5 and a value 5 for you guys. But before I get started with the video, I appreciate you guys drop a like. I greatly appreciate it. It does definitely help my channel. And if you're new to the channel and you have not as of yet become a part of the DFS Zone community, the only thing you have to do is click on that red subscribe button, subscribe down below, put on that bell icon on, so this way you will not miss out on any of my NFL or NBA lineup advice videos as well as live shows. So with that being said, today is Wednesday, October the 24th, 2018, 11-game slate, like I said, in the association. Stud 5 and value 5. I do have some players that I'm looking to target. Again, these are not, ladies and gentlemen, nothing's guaranteed. I'm going to say that time and time again here. Nothing's guaranteed. These are just players that I think are in favorable matchups. The statistics show so far as of 3 or 4 games, after 3 or 4 games, that they are in a good position to possibly do well for their teams, but nothing's guaranteed. Fluke injuries, anything can happen. Players being taken out of games in the middle of a game, maybe blowouts. Anything can happen any given day in the NBA. And in any sport for that matter, because of the fact that these guys are human, they are athletes. So nothing's guaranteed. I'm just going to give you what I think are possibly good plays. And what I like to do is also change it up a little bit. There's going to be some guys on the top that are obviously in favorable positions too, but you can't, I will not try to go to those guys all the time. And I will tell you if I am looking at those guys as possible plays. So let's get the point guard, man. The guy I'm looking at, look, John Wall against Golden State, pretty good matchup. 9,400 definitely is in play. I will probably have a little exposure, not a whole lot. Same thing with Steph Curry against the Wizard. Kemba Walker's been on fire. I think he's in a great spot. I'm going to go all the way down at point guard. I am looking down at 7,000 at Lonzo Ball. I like the matchup against Phoenix. We know that due to the suspension to Rondo, he's going to be playing. He did play 32 minutes in the last game. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Phoenix comes in giving up about 116 points per game, if I remember correctly. And off the top of my head, I think that Lakers have given up the most points per game to the opposition this year. I think over 130 points a game. So this is going to be a shootout. You know, this is going to be a shootout. It's high implied totals in this game. 32, I mean, so far, Ball, 11.7 points, 5.3 rebounds, as you can see here on the screen, 3.5 assists. Pretty much 25 spot as far as fantasy points per game. At 7 here on Fanduel, you need 35. That's a big number because he's not nowhere near that right now. On DK, he's 6,300, a little more respectable. 32 you need to cover to meet value at 5x. But 32, 14, 6, and 6 in the last game, 32.2 fantasy points. That's more. That's exactly on the nose. 1 fantasy point per minute. Again, going up against Phoenix. Let's go to the point guards and Lonzo Ball here. And the numbers are not looking that pretty. He played the last 2 games. The last 2 games have been his best games, but we want to see his usage. Not extremely high on this team. Obviously, they got a lot of go-to players. He basically needs to facilitate and make sure that he gets his other players involved. But he's going to take his share of shots. He took 9 in the last game from the floor and 7 from 3. What I did like from his shot is from 3. His shot doesn't have like a funky hitch that he had last year. It seems like he has improved in that. He had worked on that over the summer and definitely has improved that. I think he's going to eventually be a pretty solid 3-point shooter. But as you can see, he does get the occasional steal. Doesn't turn over the ball a lot, which is great. And he actually sees the floor so well. But 6 of 6, 6 rebounds. Those are some solid numbers for him. And we go and see how he did against Phoenix last year. And he did fabulous. In 3 games against them, he had a 37 spot and a 55 in the first game. He had good usage in that game. He's capable with LeBron James here, Kuzma playing as well. I do like the factors that are going up against Phoenix. Phoenix right now at the moment is giving up 40 fantasy points per game in their limited amount. I know it's a small sample, but nonetheless, they've given up 40 so far this year. 114 points to the opposition this year. The Lakers, like I said, they're giving up a little bit more than 131. So I like the matchup. I think it's just a high-scoring game. He's going to get a lot of opportunity. He's going to definitely get some shots, and I think that he can definitely help this team, especially the facilitating. So Lonzo Ball is in play for me. I think he's got a great shot to get you 35 or better in this game. He needs 35 to cover, but I think on DK that price is really, really nice. Going back, as far as value, I have 2 guys that I like at value, to be honest with you. I definitely like J.J. Barrera here, man. Barrera at 4,500 on DK and 4,800. He's actually $300 more expensive on DK. On Fanduel, he is 4,500. That price, you pretty much need 23, 24 from either one of the sites. He's averaging 10 points, 2.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists, which is pretty darn good. 28 fantasy points already. And we know that JJ last year was smashing it. I used him several times last year, late in the year. He always came through, and he's been so far. Last game, he only played 17 minutes, 9, 4, and 4. But when he's on the floor, he always makes things happen. He's just like an energized bunny. And not only that, look at this, 18 fantasy points in 17 minutes. Every one of the 3 games, more than 1 fantasy point per minute in the time he's on the floor. Look at how many points he got here. 12 points, 1 rebound, 11 assists. He did that all in 21 minutes. I mean, I don't even need to go to the cruncher. 35.7 fantasy points. He is solid, man. 4,500 going up against Atlanta. Atlanta is giving up 122.7 points per game to the opposition this year. And against point guards, they've been really dreadful thus far this year. 37.1 fantasy points per game. Definitely a great value here with Barrera, who has great upside, can get you 35, 40, just like this, that quickly. He needs to get that 20 to 25 minute range. If he can get that much minutes, he could definitely cover value here for us at 4,500, and he has that upside. Looking at as far as Atlanta gave up 22 to George Hill and 37 to Michael Connolly. So there's room there. I mean, George Hill is not a bad player. Connolly is a better player. Barrera is just a spark plug, scrappy guy. I like him here at 4,500. I think he would be a nice value play. Other than him, you got to definitely consider Michael Carter-Williams. You know, I'm not going to even go through him. But Michael Carter-Williams, obviously, with no Chris Paul due to the suspension, he's going to get some minutes. You know, he's going to obviously play. Let's go over to the cruncher for him. He's at 3,500. You know, he only played 14 minutes in the last game. But at 3,500, he could be that one player that you can get in there, could possibly get you 20, 25. And if he happens to put up a stinker, hey, on FanDuel, he's going to be that one line that's going to be just taken right off, because they'll take the top 8 scores. He'll be that one score that they'll just dump. But at 3,500 here and 3,800 on DK, you pretty much only need 15 here and about 17 on DK. And I think he's capable of doing that. When he did play last year against Utah, he did put 13-13. All right. Not a whole lot of minutes over the last few years, 15 and 13 last year. I'm not basing it more on that. I'm just basing it on the factors that he is going to go and play hopefully 14 to maybe as many as 20 minutes in this game today. And he may have the opportunities to score. I think he has the possibility of getting you 20 to 25. I mean, he definitely can if he gets at least 20 minutes. I say if he gets 20 minutes, he can get you 20, 25. Michael Carter-Williams. So I like Michael Carter-Williams other than J.J. Barrera as a value play. We go over to shooting guard. And a shooting guard, obviously, Hart and Butler. These guys, Butler is going up against Mr. Kawhi Leonard today. And I could just see both of them probably going to defend one another. It's going to be an interesting game on how well these guys defend one another. So I'm going to bypass these guys a little bit. When it comes down here to the shooting guard, I definitely love Devin Booker in his matchup with the Lakers. It's going to be a high-scoring game. He's going to need to facilitate. He's going to need to be the one to lead this team. We know he's the main scorer in the Phoenix Suns team. 38, 36, 33, over 33 minutes per game over the course of the whole season thus far. 29.3 points per game. Nearly 30 points a game for this kid. 3.7 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 40.7, pretty much a 41 spot in fantasy points per game. At 8, you need 40. And on DK, he's 82, you need 41. So 40 to 41, he hit 47 already earlier against Dallas. He's going up against LA. LA's given up 48.3 fantasy points thus far this year to point guards and shooting guards. And they gave up 63 to DeRozan and 55 to Harden. 2 very integral part offensive pieces to those particular teams. And this is a kid that is the most important offensive player on this team. So I could see him getting 50. We know he's capable of getting 50 or better. I have Devin Booker getting a big game today, depending on who matches up with him. I would not be surprised if LeBron James covers him several times. I don't think he will cover him the entire game. But Devin Booker, in my eye, I think is a very very good play. Other than Mr. Booker, there's a couple guys I really like here. I do like Mr. Karis LeVert. I know he's not much of a value play, but definitely somebody I'm going to have some exposure to. 6,900. He's averaging 37.6. He's going up against Cleveland in another high-scoring game. Cleveland has given up 126 points per game. The Nets 116. It's going to be a shootout. You got Cleveland has given up 43.3 fantasy points per game thus far this year to shooting guards, and Caris LeVert is already showing in the Brooklyn lineup that he is the go-to guy. He was showing signs of that last year, and now this year you can see that Coach Atkins has decided that this ball has got to touch Caris LeVert's hands. So Mr. LeVert is definitely in play for me as a possible play. I'm definitely going to have some exposure to him. Cleveland gave up 39 to Mr. Bazemore, 29 to Danny Green, and 61 to Jimmy Butler. And I could see LeVert here, who's averaging 37.6 fantasy points, is going to be in a good spot. Another guy that I really like also that I notable mention is Josh Hart. In that same game against Phoenix, I just love that game as far as the potential of it being very high scoring and these guys getting involved. Josh Hart putting up pretty much 35 fantasy points per game thus far at 6,400. I mean, you need 30, you need about 32, and he's averaging 35. He's in a good spot. Phoenix has given up 31.4 fantasy points per game to shooting guards thus far this year. They gave up 31. They gave up 37 to Klay Thompson, who is the only notable guy that they have faced, and they still give up 31. And they got Mr. Hart here is already showing that he is the main shooting guard on this team for the Lakers. The minutes are there. So, I mean, Josh Hart is definitely in play. I mean, he is definitely in play. Let's just take a quick look at that. 30 and 38 the last few games. I mean, so I like him. I like everything that he brings. He brings a little that energy, and he defends. He does a little bit of everything. If you want to go really cheap, I think the only one my New York Knickerbockers, I like Damian Dotson, man. I think he may be a very sneaky, nice value play, 4,100. He's averaging 25 already. Okay, 25 already. He's only 4,100 here. You only need 20 to cover that. And on DK, he's 3,500, folks. 15, 16 fantasy points. That's all you need for him to cover. And he's going up. And, you know, this is a good matchup for Mr. Dotson, man. So I like Dotson here against Miami. 25.5 fantasy points, and Miami's given up 29.7 fantasy points thus far this year. They gave up 38 to Jeremy Lamb and 25 to Evan Fournier. So I think Dotson, with his skill set, is like Lamb, very quick up and down the floor, you know, very elusive. I mean, he's very athletic. I like him as a New York Knicks fan. I mean, I definitely like him, and I like the fact that they're starting to actually utilize him. So I think he's a nice play there as a value play if you're looking not to go with Hart, LeVert, or Mr. Booker. At small forward, right away, I mean, these guys on top, again, I'm going to have some exposure. Maybe one lineup, I'll have LeBron James. I'll probably have a lineup with Giannis on it. Kawhi Leonard is a tough matchup. I could see him being defended by Jimmy Butler in that matchup. But I'm going all the way to Cedi Osman here, man. Mr. Osman. Definitely like him here in this matchup against Brooklyn. This is going to be a high-scoring affair, no doubt about it. Brooklyn is averaging giving up 113 points per game to the opposition, and Cleveland is giving up 126. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I could see Osman, who had a little down game in the last game out, only put up 12 floor points, but he's gonna bounce back here, man. He's gonna bounce back here. 17 points per game for this young man. 5.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists. He is solid all the way across. 32.7 fantasy points, pretty much a 33 spot for me. 6,900 here. You need about 34 from him, and he's averaging 33. Very, very good spot. Favorable matchup. Brooklyn comes in, like I said, giving up 113 points per game. And they've given up only 18.4 fantasy points per game, but they have not faced anybody really, really good thus far this year. They faced Bogdanovich, Ntilikina, and Kennard. So they haven't faced a good, solid, small forward that is producing and is an integral part of an offense. And that's where Osman comes in. Him and Kevin Love seem to be the two main go-to guys here. If we go over and take a look at him at the cruncher, and you can see that the minutes are there, 39 and 35, and look at the usage, over 20%, 20 and 24 here, 19 pretty much here. And look at the shots, 15 from the floor, 6 from 3, that's 21 shots. 17 and 7 here, another 23, 24 shots, and then 10 and 2, that's 12 shots. And he's getting the other things done. He is a little turnover prone, as you can see, 5 turnovers, 3 and 3. But as long as he gets some steals and he gets some blocks and he defends and he does the rebounding and he distributes the ball, he's going to be a fine fantasy point player for us. All right. I love 37 here in 35 minutes. 33 minutes here, he put 38. So in 2 games out of the 3 thus far this year, he's averaged more than 1 fantasy point per minute. And again, he's going up against a team that gives up a ton of points. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I definitely like Mr. Osman there. As far as value, that was a tough spot for me, but I have two guys I like, man. I'm going to discuss here at the bottom end here. Joe Crowder, I think, is in a good spot, has done well against Houston, as well as Kelly Oubre Jr. going up against Golden State. Either one of the two, I think, I'm going to have exposure to both, to be totally honest with you, just to make room for some studs. But Crowder has a little bit of upside, so does Oubre. And we go to Crowder here. 4,600. For Crowder, you need about 23 on DK's 4,800. It's actually $200 more expensive on DK, but you need about the same, 23, 24 to pretty much cover 5X. 29, 28 solid minutes. He's getting at least 29, 30 minutes per game on average. And he's putting up 15 floor points, 8 rebounds, 17 and 7 and 4 here. Solid 2 steals. He had a 37 spot here. He has 37-point upside. And his floor right now as far as fantasy points is 19 at the moment. All right, going up against Houston. Houston has given up 120 points per game to the opposition thus far this year, which is pretty high. And they're giving up 25.2 fantasy points to small forwards. But at 27, he's just right there in that wheelhouse. And the only notable person that they have played against and they have scored on them has been Etuan Moore of the New Orleans Pelicans, who put up 28 on them. So I think Joe Crowder has an excellent shot here to be able to produce just as much or better. So I think he could be a nice little value play. Other than him, if you're not fond of him, I think Kelly Oubre Jr. is in a good spot also here for Washington going up against Golden State. 13.6 rebounds, 22.2 fantasy points. At 4,200, you need pretty much 21. And on DK, he's 43, so you need 22. So 21 to 22 points, that's right in his wheelhouse. And he just finished putting up 35 in 39 minutes against Portland. And we know he gets hot. He is capable of putting up a large amount of points. But the only problem with him is that when he's not hot, he can give you, just 10, 11, 12 fantasy points. So that's the downside. But he's perfect for GPP as a value play at 4,200. I think Oubre is in a great spot. Golden State is giving up 30.7, pretty much 31 fantasy points per game thus far to small forwards this year. They gave up 25 to Torrey Craig, 46 to Joe Ingles, and 44 to Paul George. Obviously, Paul George being the top stud there. Golden State was also, surprisingly, Golden State has kept opponents down to about 106 points per game. But I still think that Mr. Oubre is in a good position here, especially going up against the defense that Golden State has right now going up against small forwards. And that's what I have for small forward. We go to power forward. At power forward, I'm loving Kevin Love, man. It's the first time this year I'm going to Love. He is going to be the top guy here in Cleveland this year, as well as you can see already with Osman. So I like Osman and Love here as a nice team stack. We look at his game log. He's playing more than 33 minutes per game. Had 33 in the last game. 16 and 7. What a solid game there. 3 assists. Had 1 steal. 41 pretty much fantasy points. He's averaging pretty much 42. 20 minutes from the floor. 20 points. 20.7 points per game, 14.3 rebounds. You know he's going to get the rebounds, 4 assists. He's a pretty good three-point shooter. Has 55-point upside, as you can see. So far, his low is 29, which is still solid. At 85, he is a little pricey. Okay, we need about 42, 43. And on DK, he's 8,800. So more expensive there. I love him more on Fanduel. But he'll be about a 44 spot you need for him there. So that's a little bit above where he's at. But I think in the matchup going up against Brooklyn, he's in a good spot. All right, Brooklyn, let's go to Kevin Love. And as you can see, his usage is going to be high because he's the go-to guy. Look at the shots he took. 19 from the floor, 8 from 3. Was definitely off from 3 in the last game. That's one of the reasons why he only got 41. But 16 floor points, 17 rebounds. He'll do the other things. That's what's important. If your shot is not going down, at least try to get to the foul line, at least try to get rebounds and do some other things to help yourself and to help your team. So Kevin Love, so far, so good. As the go-to guy in Cleveland after LeBron James. Brooklyn coming in, like I said, 113.3 points per game given up to the opposition. Power forwards have been putting up 24.5 fantasy points per game against them, but the only legitimate power forward they have faced is Blake Griffin, and he put up 44 back on the 17th of this month. So they haven't really faced anybody other than Blake Griffin that's been pretty solid until they see Kevin Love today. So I definitely like the matchup. High-scoring game. Both teams gives up tons of points. I could see Kevin Love having a 50 or better spot here, and we know he has 50-point. He has pretty much 60-point upside. As far as value here, little tough this one, man, but I'm going to go down all the way to just to give you guys somebody really, really low, John Henson stands out to me in this game. John Henson, 4,200, and he pretty much 21. He's 3,700 on DK. That's only about a 16 spot you need from him. He's playing 17 to as much as 22 minutes. Last few games, 9-9 and 1-2-1. 10-9 here in 22 minutes. Had 27 and 29 the last two games, averaging 28 in the last two games. That's above his average, and that's above his price. So those are the two things that stand out to me. And then he's going up against Philadelphia, who is coming on a front end of a back-to-back. They just played last night. 42.8 fantasy points per game thus far given up this year to power forwards. So Covington and company has been having trouble there holding down power forwards. They gave up 28 to Hayward, 42 to Bobby Portis, and 77 last night to Mr. Blake Griffin. Philadelphia has allowed 115.3 points per game to the opposition this year. So again, I like Mr. Henson here, man. I really think he has an opportunity to at least get you value. If you want to get to 4,200, I think he can get you 20 to 25. I would not be at all surprised if he gets 30 or better because he's capable of it. 27, 29, like you see here. Usage rate in the last game was pretty good, 25. He's not going to take a ton of shots, but he's usually pretty efficient when he does because he's pretty close to the basket. All right? And he's capable of hitting the occasional three, but the rebounding is important and the defense. That's what's important. As you can see, 2 and 3, he's had already 6 blocks this year. And that's the fantasy points we look for. That's the upside we look for when we choose someone like a John Henson. All right, let's go over to center. To wrap this thing up, at center. At center today, I mean, Joel Embiid, even though he played last night and he put up a nice number, he was one of my selections last night. A lot of my guys last night, they actually did very well, either 30 points or better. So the lineups were pretty good. I had about 3 lineups over 300, so I did fairly well. Utilizing some of the players as well. But at center today, I really like DeAndre Jordan, 8,300. I think he's at a good price, and he has upside and capable of smashing that 8,300. At 8,300 here, you pretty much need 42. And on DK, he's 8,000 on the nose, so you need 40. So anywhere between 40 to 42 will cover on any one of the two platforms. 31, 31, 30, so he's pretty much a 30 to 31 minute guy here at Dallas, and he's been, putting up double-doubles, man. 18 and 16, 22 and 10, 11 and 12, pretty much did the same thing last year for the Clips. 55 spot, as you know, there you go already, you can see that he has the potential to get you 50 or better. This is going to be another one of those high-scoring games. Both of these teams are giving up quite a bit of points. Dallas has given up 122 points per game to the opposition, and Atlanta has done the same, 122.7. So this is going to be really, really some sort of a shootout. Definitely a game to target a few players and get some team stacks, maybe even game stack it as well. Jordan, going any further, Jordan 17 points, 12.7 rebounds, 41.9, pretty much a 42 spot as far as fantasy points. So again, he can definitely meet that price with no problem. We just want to see if there's upside. There definitely is there. And we go over to center just to take a look at him a little bit more. And the usage rate, 16 to 19, which is fine because he's not the main focal point of the team. He needs to do all the dirty stuff underneath the boards, and he's going to do that. Look how efficient. 8 of 11, 8 of 10, 16-10. The numbers are great. He's going to defend. He had 5 blocks in the game that he put up 55, and that's the difference. That's what he can do in certain situations is defend and get those additional fantasy points, and that's what we look for. If we have a guy that can score and can do some things as well, and at the same time he can defend and get some blocks and steals, our fantasy point total goes up. That's what we're looking for. And as you can see, these numbers here, the last 2 games, actually all 3 games, all more than 1 fantasy point per minute, which is very, very good. And that's what we're looking for. The usage is a little low, but that's understandable under his condition on where he fits in this offense. So DeAndre Jordan, I definitely think he's a solid play, man. Definitely a solid play. Atlanta's given up 31.3 fantasy points per game, and he's averaging 42. They gave up 38 to Cantor, and they gave 28 to Tristan Thompson. So there is definitely room for DeAndre Jordan to do just the same or better. My value play is going to be a little surprising. My value play, man, I'm going with Jonas Valanciunas, man. 5,500 I know that he doesn't get a ton of minutes. He did this last year. We discussed it last year as well. When every time he played, we're like, damn, I wish he could just play 30 minutes or so. So far, they're doing the same thing this year. Even with a different coach, they're still doing the same thing with Valanciunas. He had those injuries a couple years ago, and he really has been shortcut every year for the last 2 years. He's just been playing little minimal minutes, but he's so productive in a short period of time. Look at his last game against Charlotte. 19 minutes, he put up 17 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, put up 44. And that's the upside I'm looking for here at 55. At 5,500, you need about 27. And on DK, he's 5,600, pretty much the same, 27, 28. He's averaging 26. He's capable of getting it done. We need him to get to 20, 25 minutes. Come on, coach. Put him out there for 20, 25 minutes. He's going to get us what we need as far as value here. So he has the potential to put up some serious numbers. Minnesota versus centers, and I love picking up Minnesota. I think everybody does, because we know Karl Anthony Towns is not a great defender. 31.1 fantasy points per game given up this year, and they had given up 31 to Tristan Thompson, and they gave 55.5 to DeAndre Jordan. So Valanciunas, very, very good, very skillful guy, man. Again, if he can just get the minutes, he'll be just right. So I definitely love him here. Other than Valanciunas, I will have some exposure also to Tristan Thompson, just due to the fact that he's at home and he's going up against Brooklyn. That's basically it. He's at 4,700. You need about 23. And on DK, he's more expensive. He's $600 more on DK. I don't favor him on DK for 5,300. You need about 26. That will be slightly above what he's averaging. He's averaging 25, but he's putting up decent numbers. 9 points, 10.5, pretty much almost 11 rebounds. And he's playing enough minutes. 27 to as much as 35. He has already shown that he can get to 30. So he got 31 and 28. In the last 2 games alone, he's averaging about 29.5. So that's above his average. So we know that this fantasy points per game is going to slowly keep creeping up if he continues to go that route. I think he's in a situation against Brooklyn where he can definitely get 30 or more. Brooklyn is giving up, like I said before, 113 points per game. Cleveland is allowing 127. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Brooklyn against centers have allowed 43.2 fantasy points per game thus far this year. They give up 50 to Drummond, 47 to Cantor. Those are the 2 most notable worthy mention centers that they have faced, and they're pretty good centers. And Tristan Thompson is not probably in the same league as Drummond or Cantor, but he is pretty close. I think he could definitely get you. If those guys can get 47.50, I think he can get 30 to 35. At this price, that would be nice to pay off, and maybe, just maybe, he may even get more. So Tristan Thompson, other than Valanciunas, will probably be the value place for me. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you liked the video, man. Please drop a like. If you're new to the channel and you have not subscribed as of yet, please do so down below. That subscribe button, click on it, and at the same time, make sure you put on those notifications on with the bell. And this way you don't miss out on any of my NBA, NFL lineup advice videos, as well as live shows. All right, guys? Live show for the NBA, I probably will be doing the first one probably Friday. I'm going to look at the schedule, look at the slate. I want to get that going. I want to be able to interact with the new subscribers as far as NBA is concerned. And if you're new here to the channel, basically what you just saw right now is what you're going to get on a regular basis. And I'm still working on the website. As soon as it's done, I will be obviously sharing that with you guys as well. So with that, I wish you guys a great night, and I'll see you guys on the next NBA video.